Yeah, okay, so now back to the case. So what we have this user data and we want to pull the post from this API. So what we're going to do, I'm going to throw away this. I'm going to copy my test data in here. Why is this so buggy? Yeah, no matter. Okay, so what I'm going to do a HTTP transformer, and this HTTP transformer allows you to do an API call dynamically. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this URL. I'm going to paste it in here. And for now, I will leave the user ID hard-coded. I will do a GET request. We will do an empty object because for now we don't want to pass any parameters, and we want to do the default client. So now when I press test, we can see that we received we did an API call and we received the response of this API call. So we have this array with posts, and we also see it. Here, right? But the issue is now that the rest of our data is gone. So initially up here we had the user data, but this data is now replaced with the result of this API call. This is an issue because we want to keep this data and we want to add this data to this data. So in order to do this, we have to do a different approach. So instead of directly using the HTTP transformer, we have to use the merger transformer. Because the merger transformer takes another transformer as input, and it can be a lot of transformers. So in this case, we are going to select the HTTP transformer. It will take the HTTP transformer in this case as input, then execute this HTTP transformer, and then take the result. And then you can use this template to tell Alumio, okay, where you want to write the result. So instead of replacing your current data, you can say, okay, I want to take the result of this API call and I want to write it to a different key. So we are going to paste the URL in here. We're going to do an empty object again, the default client. And now what we will define here is something like blog_post. And then we have to do the placeholder notation, which starts with an ampersand, curly bracket open, curly bracket close. And here you can put the path to the data you want to copy. So in this case, I'm going to use an @ sign. And an @ sign basically means take the entire data object. So take the entire result. So now when I press test, we can see that we still have the user data. And down here we have a blog post that contains each of the posts. But as you can see right now, we still have this hard-coded. So we need to make this dynamically. So what we can do it here. I can do the placeholder notation here. So I can do like this ampersand, curly bracket open, curly bracket close. And within I can supply the path to the field that holds the value that I want to put here. So in this case, it's the ID field. So I can just pass like ID. And when I press test, we can see now we received the blog post for user ID 10. And if I change this ID to 2 and test it again, it will receive the blog post for user ID 2. But it's not really readable. So what you want to do, you want to remove it from here and just put it in the request parameters like so. And put it like so, because this is better readable, especially when you're going to pass multiple parameters. And now when I press test, it still works. Also, when I change this back to 10, yeah, it works perfect. So maybe what we can now do, we can filter away some data. So this is another use case for the list mapper. So I'm going to do the list mapper again. I'm going to use the key accessor. And I'm going to leave that empty because I want to do it over the entire route. And what I'm then going to do, I'm going to do an intersect keys. And this allows you to give a list of keys that you want to keep. And the rest of the keys that don't match this criteria will be thrown away. So what I will do, I want to keep the ID field. I want to keep the email fields. And I want to keep the blog post field. And maybe we also want to keep the name field, something like this, right? And now when I press test, we can see that the rest of the data was thrown away. And now we only have the ID, the name, the email, and a blog post left. Okay, maybe we see another issue now. Maybe we have the user ID in each blog post, but what we want the name of each user in each blog post because we need to show that on the website. And we don't want to do an API call from the website to this user ID every time. So we just want to make this data available on each child object. So we can use the transformer like recursively copy values to children. And again, you can define a path to the children. So in this case, blog posts is an array that contains a lot of objects, and we want to copy a value to each object of the blog post key. So here you will do blog underscore post dot star. So now we'll match each object. And here we can then provide a mapping. So what we want to do, we want to add an author key to each object. And then we want to take a value of the parent, which is from this root level. And we can use this with this placeholder notation again, and we take the name field. Now when I press test, we can see that the name was actually copied to each post. So we will save this. We will apply this on the incoming configuration. And now when we press run, we go to the tasks, we can see that we have 10 new tasks. And when I click one open, we can see now we only have the ID, the name, the email, and the blog post for this user. So this is the case for each user.